So this is Steve, aka Burst Mode, aka president or founder of the Valley Wealth Alliance, and we are here today interviewing Ginelle or Ophelia, who is a local business woman from the area. And today we're going to ask her a couple questions about business and how everything's working for her. And we're here at a coffee shop up in Hamburg, Pennsylvania called, what's the name of the coffee shop?
412.
412, and it's a nonprofit business that's ran by the church, local church.
The Bridge Church.
The Bridge Church. So It's a really unique operation, and it's really quaint and a nice place to be, and their food is great.
Coffee's really good.
Yes. So, first question I wanted to ask you is, so tell us about the businesses that you're involved in.
Sure. I'm currently involved with 3 businesses. My very first one that I hold very dear to my heart, and one I was most excited about, is Go Girls Entertainment. It's an entertainment business that offers various entertainers and performers for events. Second, I have Go To Party, which is a party event that one of my best friends and I operate, and we help basically bring people's bachelor parties or bachelorette parties or fun adult events to life. And then our most recent, and probably the one that I'm most excited about as well, is Defiant Pop Culture. That is a podcast that Steve and I have together, where we basically travel all over the place and interview and explore events and talk about today's current events.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that adventure too. It's tough getting things off the ground, but we're moving forward, and we should be up and running real soon. A lot of different topics that we're going to discuss. I think some of them we already discussed, got a little heated, but we're getting through it.
That's what's great about our podcast, is we both have very different ideas and perspectives, so we get to pull all that information together and kind of give our viewers the opportunity to make up their own minds, but hear varying perspectives.
How long have you been in business?
I started my very first business when I was 18, and I actually started a cleaning company, which is hilarious because if you know anything about me, I'm a terrible cleaner. I hate cleaning. Don't know why I thought it was a good idea, but it was good money, and I was able to kind of get my feet wet with the idea of starting a business and understanding how a business operates. Then I started Go Girls Entertainment about 11 years ago, and then my 2 most recent ones I started this year, 2020.
What made you start a business? What was going on in your mind to say, hey, I want to start a business and ruin my life?
I was about to say, I don't know what was going on in my mind because I feel like I was a little crazy. But I think it's because I'm a natural born leader. I have a lot of leadership qualities. And so while I am absolutely the kind of person that can follow in someone else's footsteps, I also really like to take matters to my own hands and have that control and have that ownership. So when I see that final outcome, or I know that I've been successful with the business, then I take a lot of pride in that. Also, I really like the idea of having a business that is strictly mine, so everything that happens with that business is my ideas being put out. Another reason was just because I like to kind of do what I want to do, and I don't like being told what I have to do. So if there's something that I want to do creatively, I don't have anybody telling me I can't do it. Or if I want the flexibility in my lifestyle where I need to take a couple days off, or I need to, get into my creative mode and not have anybody telling me that I have other things that are a priority. I like the ownership and the control that comes along with having a business.
Now, when you say that you're independent and you kind of do what you want, isn't that kind of do the customers dictate that or not?
100%, yes. So that is kind of where it's a double-edged sword. Yes, I have the ability to be independent, and if I want to leave on vacation tomorrow, I can. But as you said, the customers do dictate that a lot. So what that means is I always have my cell phones with me. They go everywhere I go. And if somebody needs me for something, I don't have the ability to just turn off the phone, because that means a customer's on the line or one of my employees needs something for me and they're relying on me. So it's an expectation and it's a responsibility for me to be there for them. So to be honest, when it comes to owning a business, you really never get a day off. One of the biggest struggles that I really had to deal with was the fact that my business thrives during the holidays and during the summer. So while everyone else is getting to have that time off, that's actually when I'm working the hardest. So I get phone calls on New Year's Eve at 12 o'clock. Right when that ball drops, sometimes there's something going on where one of my employees contacts me. Or it might be Christmas, and that night we have an event because there's a corporate Christmas party going on. And if there's an issue going on, my employees are the first one, they call me first. So I need to fix that. So there is those pros and cons. I might be in Florida taking the calls, but I'm still taking that call.
And what is the best part about running a business?
When you feel like you've been successful, and that's tricky because everyone's idea of success is different. When I started Go Girls Entertainment, I never had the intention of having it be my primary source of income. I always wanted it to be something that I loved and enjoyed, and I never wanted to put pressure on myself to become $1 million, to become $1 million entity. So I hit my goal when I knew that I was #1 in my market. And that became #1 for me. I hit that goal, I was successful as far as I was concerned. So learning what your idea of success is and what that looks like for you. Some people, it's to become a millionaire, and that's great. I think so. Really being true to yourself and knowing what your business aspirations are is I think what makes sure you be successful. So hitting those success goals were really important for me. Being in a place where I can start multiple businesses and feel comfortable and confident with my abilities is another thing that I love about owning a business. And again, some of the flexibility is great, but it's hard work. It's not easy.
So you say it's not easy, and I understand that. Do you think it's more difficult being a black woman running a business than other ethnicities? I can't say that word.
Ethnicities?
Yes. Tearing that word up right now.
I do. And I think anybody who is a person of color who owns a business and they think that that is not the case, okay, let me correct this. Especially depending on where they live and what kind of business they're operating, I think you'd be lying to yourself to believe that it doesn't affect you in some way, shape, or form. Some of my competition are run by white women, and their connections are very strong, and there's a lot of loyalty to their network. And so I will not be able to break some of those barriers. And that's okay with me, because I look at it this way. I want to be supported by the kind of people I would support. So if you don't have an interest in supporting my business because I am a person of color, then we probably wouldn't work together very well anyway. So I really want to connect with people who have an open mind. And having that open mind, I'm able to be creative, and my business thrives in that sense. So I really need to connect. I really need to connect with those kind of people. So it's important that I keep my eyes open and pay attention to that kind of bias and just stay clear of it.
So, and I get running the business. Like a lot of people that come out of the inner city and start businesses, we get kind of called the sellouts because we have to sometimes suck it up and deal with a lot of things that other, I guess, business people have to deal with at times. And for one, our community calls us a sellout. But or do you see that? Do you agree with that or not? Like a lot of times what we're dealing with.
No, I don't see it that way. Now, maybe I don't know if my opinion is necessarily the greatest in that, because I have always lived in suburban communities. So I've never lived in the inner city. I've never been looked at or called a sellout. Anybody who has been around me from the moment I started my business until now will continue to say that they're proud of my success, and they've watched me grow, and they've watched me go from a business that didn't look very strong and didn't look very good and wasn't appealing, visually appealing, and now where we are today, and the vast difference between that. So I've never really experienced that. If that's how people see things, then that's their problem. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you have to worry about yourself and what makes you happy.
Yeah, I only say that because I think in order for some of us to get out of our community, we have to do things that our community doesn't always see as acceptable. For instance, if you're starting to run a business, you have to study the business, you have to read, you have to go to the library, you have to take seminars. I think a lot of times our kids are trapped in the community because we're all about rapping, basketball,
right,
and looking hard, and can't be yourself because you have to be cool all the time. And I think that kind of holds our kids back from moving forward and getting into businesses and things like that.
Yeah, so knowledge is power. And the moment we have our youth believing that that's not true, we failed. So if their only objective is to follow the stereotypes of people of color that, oh, you're tall, so you must be a basketball player, and not you must be a scientist, that's where we have failed in a sense as well, because we need to get our kids to understand that you're bigger and better than that. You can be bigger and better than that. That is not an expectation of people with darker colored skin. So how do you do that? Well, what you just said, instead of worrying about taking them to a basketball camp, by no means do I have there's anything wrong with that, that's great, but also make sure that while you're taking them to that basketball camp, you're also taking them into business workshops or whatever it is they want to do. For example, my daughter wants to be a photographer, so I got her into photography sessions. So it's not an expectation that she only follows her basketball career, she also follows other things. You have to breed that kind of environment at home. It starts at home. So getting them to read those books about business and success, and having those people, instead of having Allen Iverson as an idol, find people who are in business and make them your idol.
I agree. You definitely have to find mentors in your community around you to move forward. A lot of kids sometimes, I feel, even when I was coming up, I was afraid to ask questions, thinking I was going to be stupid. But when I got into the real estate business, it was mostly older white guys that I finally sucked up to, or not sucked up to, but I finally put down my guard and started asking questions, and I learned a lot from that. So you have to definitely ask the mentor.
Yes, for sure.
All right. So what advice would you give a high school and college student right now that was thinking about starting a business?
This is a tricky one. Whatever business you want to start, make sure you love it. But the key to that is that now whatever it is that you love is now a job. So that job is now going to create that income, which is also going to create that stress. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with the idea that what you love is also something that's going to cause you stress? So it's no longer just a hobby. It's no longer just something that you dabble in or play in for fun and it brings you joy. It's going to bring a lot of headaches sometimes. So you have to be okay with the idea that it's not going to be all sunshine and roses. That's something I think I had a hard time with at first. When I started my dance company, dance is one of my passions. I didn't realize that all that dancing and being around all that dance and being around all that stress was going to sometimes make me frustrated, and then I wouldn't want to dance. So I think it's important to find that balance. Are you willing to take that risk? If you are willing to take that risk, then my next piece of advice would be you need to dive in and go hard. Don't dabble. You either go all the way or don't do it at all. So go all in. Educate yourself. Find mentors who are a positive role model, and make sure you're covering all bases, because a lot of things I failed with initially was not understanding the legal aspect and taxes. That was a big one. So make sure you understand those things.
And I think a lot of times what I see now is you have to be comfortable with failure. in
Yeah.
order to be in business. And I don't think people are always comfortable with failure or being told that you're not liked and things like that. I think business, you're running against the grain. So
Yep.
you're always, things you're going to do aren't liked. Or sometimes people aren't going to understand your vision. And you just got to keep moving forward because that's the only way you are going to push it forward. If you worry about everybody else, I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's what I see a little bit with the business stuff. Even with you in this podcast, like your views are way different than mine,
They sure are.
but mine are always right.
No, they're not.
At the end of the day.
No, that's a negative.
Anyway. All right. So the last question I can ask, and I know we're short on time. You have to get back to your business. So now that the election is over, we finally have a black woman in office as a vice president-elect. Do you think things are going to change for Black America and Black business?
No. It's nobody else's responsibility to make that change but my own. Now, there is a little asterisk to that because there may be more opportunities to become a present. Like, for example, maybe there'll be more grants available for people of color to start businesses. So I highly suggest that people get into their county and find out what opportunities are available that may be able to help launch their business or keep their business going. So there might be more opportunities that become available, but at the end of the day, it's on us to make those things happen. So I don't think it's anybody else's responsibility. Furthermore, just because we have a Black Asian vice president doesn't mean that the views of people in society are going to change about that. There's always going to be those handful of people who do not want to see us succeed, and a lot of those people hold some very strong positions in power. A lot of those people have businesses of their own and they are very wealthy, and they will never support us no matter what we do. So it is not anybody else's responsibility but our own to keep pushing forward and support those around us who are people of color and help make their business thrive.
I know we're short on time, and I want to thank you for spending the time with us, spending the time with Valley Wealth Alliance, and then we're also, again, we're running the Defiant Pop Culture podcast at the same time, so we're like multitasking here, which is great. And hopefully we can keep this thing going.
Yeah, thanks for the interview. Hope it was helpful.
Okay.
Shout out to business owners. Whoop whoop.
Thank you. Bye-bye.